Hungarian Folk Tales. The Simple Prince. Once upon a time there was a farmer, and the farmer had 3 sons. One of his sons was very simple, and he was the youngest. One day the farmer went into the farmyard and saw that someone had scattered the straw all over the place. So he busied himself and tidied everything up. Then the farmer told his sons, "This can't go on. Someone has to keep the straw in order." On the first night, the eldest son went out to the yard to watch the straw. But the boy became hungry and began to eat. All of a sudden, a tiny mouse appeared and sat staring at the boy. So the boy took off his hat and trapped the mouse, but the mouse vanished. Then the oldest son felt drowsy and he fell fast asleep. And when he woke the following day, he saw that the straw had been thrown around the yard again. The following evening, the middle son went out to guard the straw in the farmyard. He was eating his supper when the mouse appeared. He also tried to catch the mouse with his hat, but the mouse vanished. So the boy went to sleep. And when he woke again the following morning, the straw was messy again. On the third day, it was the youngest son who went to the yard. His elder brothers teased him and insisted that he was too stupid to guard the straw. But young John still went out and sat in the yard. The little mouse appeared and stared at the boy. Then young John saw the mouse and gave it a bite to eat. The little mouse said to him, "Young John, if you are clever and do as I say, the straw will be neat and tidy by morning." A horse comes into the farmyard at night and it kicks the straw around. But you mustn't be afraid. I will give you a bridle and you must throw it around the horse's neck and sit up on its back. So young John did as the mouse had said. When the horse appeared that night, he threw the bridle around its neck and sat high up on its back. The horse tried to run into the straw, but young John held it tight. The horse soon realised that young John was too strong for it and it would never get into the straw. And then all of a sudden, the horse began to speak. "As you were so brave, I shall give you 3 whistles. If you blow one of them, a horse will appear in the blink of an eye with a uniform for you to wear." Then the horse gave him a copper whistle, a silver whistle, and a golden whistle. When he returned home, young John said to his father, "I kept the straw safe, it's still neat and tidy." So then the father addressed his other 2 sons. "You see, you said he was the simplest of you all, and yet he was the only one who managed to guard the straw." The king's beautiful daughter had made up her mind to marry, and she set the following challenge. In front of the castle stood a mighty glass mountain, and on top of that a solitary pine. And on the highest branch there was a slipper that perfectly fit the princess's foot. And the young princess announced that she would marry the man who could bring the slipper back to her. Brave young men from all 4 corners of the land came to try their hand, and young John's brothers went up to the palace to see who would get the slipper. John wanted to join them too, but they refused to take him. Then John had an idea. "You go, my brothers, I shall be there anyway." Then young John blew the copper whistle and a copper horse appeared with a gleaming copper uniform. John put the clothes on, climbed up on the horse and rode towards the glass mountain. When the princess saw him, she sighed and said, "I wish it were him who could pick up my slipper," but he only rode halfway up and back down again. When his brothers got home, they told him what they had seen. "I saw it too, from the top of the wall." His brothers were angry with him and they knocked the wall down to stop him spying on them. The competition continued the following day and his brothers attended again. This time John blew his silver whistle. This time a silver horse appeared with a sparkling silver suit, and when he rode up in front of the palace, the princess was even keener for him to win. But young John only managed to ride halfway up and down again. At home, his brothers told him what they had seen. John said, "I saw it too, from the barn roof." And his jealous brothers burned the old barn down. On the third day, his brothers went again to see the competition. Now John blew the golden whistle, and a golden horse appeared with a glistening golden uniform. The young princess saw him at once. "This is the last day," said the princess. "I hope he will bring my slipper back." John rode all the way up to the top. He picked up the slipper and disappeared over the other side of the mountain, taking the golden slipper with him. The princess was sad because she had no idea where the handsome hussar had gone. Young John returned home. Then his brothers arrived back and told of what they had seen. They said they had seen a brave hussar, better still than the two before, who had ridden up to the top of the glass mountain, picked up the golden slipper and vanished down the other side. And they said the princess looked sad. Then young John said, "I saw everything too from the corner of the house." His brothers were so furious that they knocked the old house down. The king issued a decree that the young man possessing the golden slipper should present himself at the palace at once. But nobody came. Then they began to search the homes of the local people, and they also searched young John's house. "Is there anyone else living here?" they asked the two brothers. "There is another boy, but he is no more than a simple fool." "That is no matter," they said. "We want to see him too." Young John had a little bag that he always carried wherever he went. They searched the bag and found the golden slipper. His brothers were stunned by the sight and they had no idea how he had come to have the princess's slipper. Then they were ordered to take young John to the palace where he was to marry the pretty princess. The king's men asked John where was the suit he was wearing when he picked up the slipper. Then young John blew all three whistles and all three horses appeared with all three suits. Then young John put on the golden uniform and gave the other two to his brothers. Then he presented the slipper to the princess and the wedding festivities began. The wedding party was so very jolly that I think they may still be making merry to this very day. Hungarian Folk Tales. Brave Prince Nick. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a king. And the king had 3 daughters. Every morning he took a walk in the forest with his daughters, until one morning when a large black cloud appeared in the sky. "King, you must give me your eldest daughter, or else I will snatch the sun from the sky." Then the king said, "If you are a good spirit, come down. If you are a bad spirit, go away." So off the cloud went, and it took the sun with it. The next morning they went for a walk again, and the black cloud appeared again. "King, give me your middle daughter, or else I will take the moon from the sky." The king did not do as the cloud demanded, and so it took the moon. On the third day, the cloud appeared again. "King, give me your youngest daughter, or else I will steal all the stars." The king did not obey, and so it stole the stars. The world was ruled by darkness. One day, Prince Nick went down to the courtyard for water with his younger brother. "Brother, I would bring back the sun, the moon, and all the stars if the king would give me half of his kingdom and his youngest daughter's hand in marriage." The king heard what the prince said, and he sent for him, saying, "Look, my boy, if you do not do as you suggested, I shall have you executed. Give me a good sword, your majesty, and I shall set forth." And off he went through 7 lands. Eventually he came to a silver forest, and there he found a silver bridge. He struck the bridge, and a plank came loose. Then a dragon rode up on a horse, and the horse stumbled. The dragon said, "May dogs drink your blood. I have crossed this bridge for 3 years, but my horse has never stumbled. What happened? Fire for me, water for you, both of us must perish." The dragon climbed down from his horse and said, "Prince Nick, come out from your hiding place under the bridge. I have known you since you were no bigger than a seed, that I would have to do battle with you. How shall we fight? Wrestling, sticks, or swords? Wrestling is for dogs, sticks are for swineherds, swords are for heroes." And they began to fight. They fought and fought until Prince Nick cut off 2 of the dragon's heads. "Prince Nick, spare my last head, and I will return all the stars to you." "Where are they?" "There, under my saddle. Take them." Prince Nick took the stars from under the saddle, chopped the dragon's last head off, and walked away. He soon reached a golden forest. There he went up to a golden bridge. He struck the bridge with his sword. 2 planks broke off, and he hid himself under the bridge. The 7-headed dragon appeared, and its horse stumbled. "I have crossed this bridge for 7 years, but my horse has never stumbled. Why does it do it now? Fire for me, water for you, both of us must perish. Prince Nick, come out from your hiding place under the bridge. I have known since you were no bigger than a seed that I would have to do battle with you. How shall we fight? Wrestling, sticks, or swords? Wrestling is for dogs, sticks are for swineherds, swords are for heroes." They fought and fought until at last Prince Nick cut off 6 of the dragon's heads. "Prince Nick, spare my last head, and I will return you the moon. It is under my saddle." Prince Nick took the moon out and put it with the stars, and then he chopped off the dragon's last head. He walked and walked, and soon Prince Nick arrived at the diamond forest. He went to the diamond bridge and struck it with his sword. 3 planks broke off, and he hid himself. A dragon appeared with 12 heads, and its horse stumbled on the bridge. "What happened? I have never stumbled in all 12 years. Fire for me, water for you, both of us must perish. I have known since you were no bigger than a seed that I would have to do battle with you. How shall we fight? Wrestling, sticks, or swords? Wrestling is for dogs, sticks are for swineherds, swords are for heroes." They fought and fought until Prince Nick cut off 11 of the dragon's heads. "Prince Nick, spare me my last head, and I shall give you the sun. It is there, under my saddle." The dragon had a horse with only 3 legs, but that horse could run faster than any horse with 4. Prince Nick put the stars and the moon under the saddle, mounted the horse with 3 legs, chopped the dragon's last head off, and rode away. As he was riding out of the forest, a little man spoke to him from the top of a tree. Prince Nick, do you really think that the sun, the moon and the stars are yours to keep? Of course. Who else should have them? Me. Prince Nick climbed the tree to do battle with the little man. While he was climbing, the little man jumped down into the saddle of the horse with 3 legs and he rode off. Prince Nick climbed down and followed him. And as he was walking, he met a man. The man was crying. Why are you crying? I'm crying because if I open my eyes, I can see through the world but see no further. Come with me and you will be able to use your eyes again. They walked on and met another man who sat crying. Why are you crying? I'm crying because if I take 1 step, I will step over the world, but then can step no further. Come with us and you will be able to step again. As they walked, they reached a house where the little man lived. But he was not at home. Then Prince Nick said to the first man, "Have a good look around and try to find the little man with the long beard." I can see him. He is sitting on top of a willow tree in the middle of the sea. Catch the little man for me, he told the second man. And the second man took 1 step, caught the little man and took him to Prince Nick by his beard. Then Prince Nick took the sun, the moon and the stars away from him. He let the stars fly up into the sky and they lit his way home. And as he journeyed, he let the moon go too, and as he grew close to home, he released the sun, so that he would arrive back in the bright daylight. When the 3 young men arrived home, the king gave them his daughters, and he granted Prince Nick half his kingdom. They had a wonderful wedding, and they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. Little Diogenes. When I was a little lad, my father sent me out to the forest to watch the cows grazing. He told me to keep a close eye on the herd because if any of the cows strayed away, he'd skin me alive. I tried to watch them as best I could, but I found a blackberry bush by the edge of the forest with ripe berries on it that were big and fat and black. Well, like I said, I was only a lad, and I instantly forgot what my father had said and set to work eating as many berries as I could manage. And while I stood feeding my face, the 2 cows strayed away from the grass meadow and began to make a meal of valuable hay. And just as that was happening, the devil sent the local constable, who cracked his whip and drove those 2 stray cows away from the hay they shouldn't have eaten. I gave chase as best I could and appealed to the menacing man. "Constable, please, they're my father's cows. Let them go with me." But the man took no notice at all and saddled his horse and rode away. He set out for the town and I followed him as best I could on foot, but he was soon far out of sight. So what was I to do? I couldn't stand before my father without his precious cows. I thought it best to run away instead and drown my sorrows as best I could. So I sat on a pile of pebbles by the side of the road and wept and wailed, for I was still only a lad and I'd had to leave home. Soon a woman passed and she said, "Why are you weeping, young lad? What on earth occurred?" So I told her of my troubles and that I did not dare to return home, or else my father would surely skin me alive. My parents would never see me again, and I would be orphaned and homeless. "Don't be so foolish, young lad," said the woman. "A parent's punishment strengthens the soul, but a blow from a stranger only bruises a boy's body. Now take yourself home before it gets dark." "I will not," I told her boldly. When the woman saw that she spoke to me in vain, she washed my filthy face. Then she took me by the hand and led me to a large stone house. When we reached the kitchen, she placed a plate of steaming porridge before me, but my belly was so filled with berries that I couldn't swallow as much as a spoonful. But I didn't dare leave it because I thought she'd think me ungrateful. So I took the porridge and spooned it under my shirt. Then after I'd fed my shirt this fine supper, I lay down by the stove to warm myself. And as I lay in the snug, my sadness slowly slipped away, and I was happy to have found comfort in the kitchen of this motherly woman. But it wasn't long before her husband returned, who was not what I'd call a fatherly man. As he caught sight of me lying on the blanket, he complained to his wife, "Why have you brought another hungry mouth to the house?" "But he's nothing more than a lost lad. I thought he could help about the farm." "Help? With what? A skinny thing like him will eat us out of house and home." "Hey you, get up and lift up this sack of corn. I want to see if you're strong enough to be of service here." I tried to lift the heavy sack, but my 8 years proved not enough to lift the heavy weight. But I was soon undone when my belt burst open, my shirt shot out of my trousers, and a pool of porridge landed on the floor. "You filthy thief! You have stolen from us on your very first day here." And he took out a whip to give me a thrashing. The wife begged him to spare me, but instead he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and stuffed me into a barrel. Then he sealed the barrel tight and rolled it far from the house so that no one passing would hear my cries. "And there you'll stay, you filthy thief, and tomorrow I'll have you locked in jail," he snarled. I was now stuck tight inside the barrel and could do nothing more than groan and moan. But then in my hour of greatest need, I remembered a lesson we'd had at school about a wise old man by the name of Diogenes, who used to live in a barrel much as this. Then I thought of a plan. I had a knife in my pocket and I could wedge it in between the staves, but the barrel was made of old oak and the wood was so hard that my knife broke. Then I sighted a fox that alighted in the garden. The chicken shed was closed and so the fox began to nose around my barrel. The fox appeared at the very best time as I had an idea that made me feel as wise as old Diogenes. And I started to make a noise like a laying hen. Cluck, 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 cluck. What a good place to sit. Instead of eggs, I'm sitting atop a pile of sweet honeycomb. Oh, my dear little hen, would you give your friend the fox a taste of that sweet honey you have? Of course, my foxy friend. Simply stick your tail in and I shall smear it with sweet honey that you can lick off later. The foolish fox did just as I suggested and popped its tail in through the hole that I grabbed and held onto with all my might. The hen thief thought it was caught for good and began to leap about the place. And it leapt and jumped, jumped and leapt until the barrel had broken apart. Free at last, I ran and ran until I found home. My parents were happy that I had returned. My father gave me a harsh beating for my sins and not watching over his valuable cows. But my mother rubbed my back with soothing cream and I continued to grow in my loving home.